Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today's guest is Randi Zinn, speaking on Going Beyond. Randi Zinn is an author, mindfulness and wellness expert, podcast host, and founder of the Going Beyond movement and Beyond Mom. The Going Beyond movement grants women permission to step in, step up, and enter a curious dialogue with their life. Our platform offers the Going Beyond podcast, live podcast events, community building events, dynamic social media storytelling, and retreats for women. Randi is an ambassador for Athleta and has partnered with Deepak Chopra Homebase at ABC Home, Loyal Hana, WellRounded New York, HeyMama Co., She Summit, Appleseeds, SoulCycle, The Mother Company, and IntenSati and Physique 57. She is regularly featured expert interviewed by the media and has been featured in Women at Forbes, HuffPost, The New York Times, Well+Good, MindBodyGreen, Elephant Journal, Cheddar, Fox News New York, Great Day Washington, The Honest Company blog, and many more. She's a certified yoga instructor through Laughing Lotus New York and has taught since 2008. Randi's book, Going Beyond Mom, How to Activate Your Mind, Body, and Business After Baby, was published in September 2017. For more information, check out our website at beyondmom.com. Hi, Randi. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thanks, Laura. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So we have a really juicy episode coming up with really discussing, I think, some like deeper thought-provoking topics about what's relevant and going on in the world with COVID-19 pandemic and race issues. And there's so much that we can cover today. So I'd love for you to start off with just sharing with our audience about who you are, what your Going Beyond movement is all about.
Yeah, well, this is a time for depth and honesty and real conversations. I don't know how to be any other way. And I think what's just so fascinating is watching how everybody is really brought to their edge right now. And everyone is just really feeling super vulnerable on so many topics. And I just think that that is such a perfect space for growth and for connection. So this is a time to just kind of lean into all of that. And I would like to think that the work I've been doing these past years have been all about that. But I'm going to be really, really honest with you and tell you that I feel like the vulnerability and the honesty that I'm spending time with right now, it almost makes me feel like I've been doing nothing all the way up till now, which like isn't true, but I think it's just all going to a different level. So I'll just sort of like preface our conversation with that because I'm getting more comfortable and I hope it can be a model for those listening to this conversation to saying hard things and expressing hard, complicated things. It's something we all really need to be doing right now.
I love that you just shared that because I certainly recognize that there's been a huge opportunity for growth and just the next level of evolution, right, for all of us because of the pressure cooker situation that we've all been put into the past few months. But I never recognized about how it's creating an opportunity to like speak out more. But I felt like that. Like I've been feeling like, you know what, this person's a bully and I actually am going to stand up for myself. Where in the past I would have avoided the confrontation and just kind of like, you know, brushed it under the rug, so to speak. And now it's like, no, I actually need to speak my truth because it's disrespecting myself, right? When I don't speak up.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that need us right now as white women with platforms and professions. Like we have a voice and it needs to be used for good. So I'll say that. But first, let me tell you who I am so people listening have a sense. So I did found a brand called Beyond Mom. It was all born when my son was born, and that was now 8 years ago. The vision was creating a space where this new identity that's born when you become a mom has a space and a place for women to connect with each other and to feel like this whole idea of, oh, I'm trying to get back to myself. Like, you know how they say, like, get back to my body, get back to who I was. Like, that's just so out of date and so not true because most women do recognize, if they're really asked, that you really do become an entirely new version of yourself when you become a mother. So I really dreamed of a space where we could, own our mom self, but also go beyond that, hence the word beyond mom, and really own this new evolving identity, which though it's hinged on being a mom, it's not about being a mom. It's about becoming a new version of yourself. And so often, if we can lean into that self, we can notice that we become more powerful, more poignant, more soulful, more heart-based, all of this stuff that, motherhood infuses, but also honesty and confidence and personal growth infuses. So, creating that platform was really an experience of building out content, written, audio content. It's where I began my podcast. I did publish a book, which I would encourage all of you listening to check out, especially if you're in the first few years of motherhood, or if you're pregnant and thinking about what the heck is my life going to be like. So the book is called Going Beyond Mom, How to Activate Your Mind, Body, and Business After Baby. It's available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold. And that book was really, truly my guidepost of how did I redefine and rediscover myself, mind, body, and soul. And I brought in the wisdom of so many incredible people with specialties in physical awareness and emotional awareness. Spiritual principles definitely weave their way through the book. And then I really spend a lot of time in helping you take that work that's done and then how to implement it into whatever your next vision is. Because as we know, so many women have new ideas after they become a mom. And many women want to start their own business or shift their career and do something that has some meaning to them. So that's the book. And it was a beautiful journey to create that brand and to be part of a more empowered version of motherhood. And what's been really awesome ever since, I would say, ever since I really put a massive amount of energy into my podcast, which is called the Going Beyond podcast, is that I realized that my message was actually appealing to women at large, not just mothers. This idea that we all need to lean more dynamically into our voice, which is kind of like where we began this conversation, that we all need to take the narratives that we've been told about our lives and redefine them. And the fact that our power is really going to be found when we get intimate with the more uncomfortable spaces. And if we can do that in community and in dialogue, then there's power. Then there's actually an ability to make change in the world, which is also why, gosh, this just feels so relevant right now in the time that we're living in.
Oh my God, it really does.
Yeah. So this is where this idea of the Going Beyond movement came from, because I view this as a movement. What if women were able to actually be in their discomfort and dig into it and understand, I mean, frankly, how we've just been brainwashed by patriarchy and by thinking we're supposed to be a certain way. And what if we were able to kind of like dismantle that and then lean into like who's really underneath it all? Like anything is possible from there.
I love that, because that is exactly what I've been feeling, in the past few months. Is I do find myself speaking up for myself more. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, oh, you're a doctor and you're an entrepreneur. So, they see this like masculine version of myself that's just, pushing through. But there were parts of me that were very insecure and almost like, well, I don't want to be viewed as masculine. I don't want people to not like me. You know what I mean? All this stuff that's coming up from, early childhood programming. And,
right. And people have, not to interrupt you, but people have no idea how much you have to muster to show up as a woman, to be all those things you just listed, right?
Yeah. And I kind of took some of it for granted, but also was like, well, I'll just keep going along. And now it's like, I'm very grateful for the opportunities that presented themselves in even just the past couple months, where I'm like, you know what, that's not okay, what's happening. And I need to professionally, gracefully handle this and not just be like, oh, I'll just let it go. It's like, oh, the guy that wants to rip me off for recovering my chair, and he would never do that to a man. You know what I mean? Like these little things that were coming up that were like, no, you quoted me this price and now you want to add an extra $100 on, like stuff like that I'm like, no, that's not okay. And I'll take my business elsewhere if you're not going to honor our original agreement. And I think that becoming a mom has made it even easier for me to speak that. And actually, in some ways, my husband has been an excellent model because he doesn't put up with anything. He just calls out people's BS on a regular basis. So I also really appreciate that from, witnessing that from him.
Oh yeah, definitely. It really is fascinating when you see them in action. Like they don't.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have the same blocks that we have. And I think it's just important to start unleashing whatever has been blocking us, because it's not just about our own empowerment and our own pleasure, which is part of it, but like we're actually seeing now at this moment in time how much the world needs us.
As women, it is about our own self. It's also about what we're modeling for our children, right? If we're moms, whether we're moms of a boy, girl, it doesn't matter. We're really modeling this empowered female version of what's possible, and something that, for example, I didn't see modeled by my own mother. So we're kind of having to create it as we go.
Absolutely. Definitely. And that's a wonderful motivation. If if it gets uncomfortable, it's like thinking about what you want your children to be watching and absorbing from you. I definitely will admit that there are times that I feel, and we could definitely talk about this period of time of being all these things and being a mom during this pandemic. It's challenging so much, but I definitely sometimes have to turn to my desires for my children to watch me create something I care about and do something positive for the world as my motivation, when sometimes it is hard.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of moments for me of mama guilt when I am at the office a little longer and not home with my son. But I do continue to try to remind myself that there's a reason I'm doing this. Like, I'm not just going to a job for a paycheck. This is my passion. This is my purpose. And I think it's so important to be living my purpose so that I can reflect that to my son, and I'm witnessing that for him.
Absolutely. There's studies that show that children that watch their mothers in particular, even if they're very busy, and even if our kids would ultimately love to be with us 24/7, that they really positively benefit over time from watching a parent do something of real purpose and real passion. It teaches them exactly how to do that and how to lean into those cravings and those inclinations when they have it. If there's no model, how will our kids know?
Yeah, it's so true. And it is, it's an opportunity, I think, also for women that maybe are looking at shifting careers or wanting to do something that feels more purpose driven for themselves, which can be, I think, extremely scary starting that as a mom. I feel like lucky that I started this process pre-mom and, had that foundation to go into motherhood. But, there's an opportunity when you have these creative juices flowing post-birth to take that next step. And why even though it's scary, it is important for your happiness of yourself, your family, and knowing that you're, making more of a difference in your life through these choices.
Yeah, for sure. And I will tell you, there are so many women that get those creative juices flowing at post-birth.
Yeah.
Your world changes. You start to see things differently. You start to see needs in a different way. Like how many women had children and then launched a product line based on something that they saw was missing, just as one example. But, so many women go into the healing arts or becoming a doula themselves, or there's so many examples of where women are inspired. I also think, again, we were sort of talking about the energetics of things before. You think about the second chakra and where a baby lives in your body and the expansion that happens. It also happens to be the energy center of creation and of what we make and our sensuality. And sensuality is connected to passion and vision and creation. So really, so many of these parts of ourselves are activated by our motherhood experience. But what is often missing, and this is where I think I'm now really steering my message, is, we can have all of this feeling, but if we are not whole, and when I say whole, I mean like really present with who we are underneath all of the labels, all of what society tells us we're supposed to be, if we're not real with what's going on in the world and feeling the vulnerability and the pain of others and asking ourselves, what part do I play? How can I support? How can I have a voice? We're not whole. And that's where I really think that we see a lot of women kind of sort of flounder. They're not necessarily like solid in the steps that they take. So I'm a big believer in cultivating the whole human. And this is why, my message has broadened beyond moms. As much as I am a mom and forever love working with moms, I think that women need this kind of work and need this kind of community and dialogue. So it's why my podcast has become a hub for all kinds of conversations that are relevant. It's also why I'm launching a mentorship program, because I know how many women need like another woman to support their steps, to talk through action plans, to make introductions for them. And I think sometimes having a woman who has just done it, but also sits in a similar time of life as them, who understands, it's really powerful. It's a little bit different than coaching. It's more of like, I'm with you. I'm right here with you. And like, we're going to create a plan together.
That's beautiful. And I can see why there is something quite unique and special to receiving that mentorship from a fellow woman who really has experience similar challenges and, like you said, brainwashing and conditioning over the years. And you've consciously worked on addressing those, right? And changing those limiting beliefs and having a new story.
Yeah, exactly. It's necessary.
That's so cool. I'd love for you to share a little bit about, since you are a mom and an entrepreneur, how you've managed during the pandemic, these tough moments, communicating with your children. How has that been going?
Am I allowed to curse?
Yes, you are.
It's been totally fucking crazy.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
And I hate to say that, like, people make an assumption because I teach certain things or I share certain guidance that for me, it wouldn't be fucking crazy, but it is. This is challenging everything. Yeah. Everything. I'll just give you like a little bit of a sense of our situation, and then like you'll have a sense of, what I'm talking about. Typically, we live in Manhattan. I'm from the Hudson Valley. Originally, I grew up here, and I have 2 kids. My son is 8 and my daughter is 4. And my son is like definitely the one that has had the hardest time with all of this. He is super social, very athletic and active, and, and loves his school community. And in one day to just be like ripped away and, plopped into the country in a pandemic, while we are so obviously grateful for everything we have. And I try to remind him, the people who are really struggling are those like who haven't been able to leave their apartment and are, very much stuck.
Yeah, in the epicenter of the pandemic.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. However, you can't change the emotional experience of children. It is what it is. You can work with it, but it is what it is. So that has been probably one of my bigger stress points, which has been just his emotional reality during this time. Yeah. My 4-year-old actually has really kind of thrived during this time. She's psyched to just be with us, with her family all the time at home. She's really imaginative and she's just like blossomed in so many ways. So that's been that for her. And my husband and I, we are both entrepreneurs. We both have multiple business things going on at the same time. So I'm telling you that the first 3 months, like so many of us, were just totally insane. Like any support that happened, in our normal life was gone.
Right.
And, we become the housekeepers, the chef, the babysitter, the nanny, and continuing to try to not only do business, but pivot businesses.
Right.
So, it was insane. However, what I will say, I would hope that those that are having a good experience of learning at this time can relate to this. We really leaned on what we have that's solid. And I think that what we have that's solid is that we're great at communicating and we're great at planning. So some people might look at my husband and I and be like, oh my God, you two are like way too organized and way too like planned and this and that, like loosen up. But our planning and our communicating, I think, is why we survived in one piece.
Mm.
We like really got down to things and made plans and made schedules and even kind of anticipated certain things ahead of time and started to plan them like a month or two before like other people were starting to talk about it, whether that was summer activities or some kind of childcare or whatever the topics were that it seemed like in June or July people were starting to talk about. We were talking about it in like April, May. So I don't know. We just kind of leaned into who we naturally are and like made that our strength.
That's amazing because there was so much uncertainty. I think that's what was so unsettling for people that were planners because it was certainly more challenging to plan, right? With all the uncertainty.
100%. And we're still in that position. Like,
Right.
It's not like that has changed. The only thing I can say that we've done, and it's not easy for me at all. Like, I've definitely had countless emotional breakdowns, a lot of crying, a lot of anxiety. Like, I am not immune to anything that we're all experiencing. My husband is very practical, and his attitude was, and I think it's what sustained me, well, if no one else can make calls or no one else can make decisions right now, like, let's make one for ourselves and at least go with it and at least plan for what we believe makes the most sense for us. Mm-hmm. And it kind of just like empowered us to just do what we do for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, so good. But look, it's been crazy. I mean, I'm living what so many of us are living. It feels like there's never enough time. I feel like I have very little time to invest in myself in the way that I would love to during this period. There's a distinct difference in experience between those that have children and those who do not.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of friends who don't have kids, and like, not that they're not going through their stuff. They are, like, they have their own versions of things, but they're reading and they're catching up on all these documentaries and they're hiking and they're this. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I am like barely surviving over here.
It does feel like there's a little more freedom when there's no childcare involved.
Oh my God. Like, exactly. So I think one of the things that I am personally reckoning with at this moment, because I can look back and I can talk about all the craziness and all of that. And in some ways it continues, but I would say like my meditation at the moment is this. I feel very responsible for the emotional well-being of my kids, especially my son, who has had a hard time. And he needs to get out of the house. He needs a change of scenery. He needs to move his body to feel like himself.
Yep.
So what ends up happening is I kind of sacrifice me, and I'm kind of always trying to either be with him, be present, take him somewhere, do something with him. And what I've realized recently is I feel like I'm drowning, and I'm like always with them, always at home, always focusing on them. And last week, I went for the first time on a half-day hike up a mountain with my oldest best friend.
Oh, and no kids.
No kids.
Wow.
No kids. And I got to tell you, I felt like the best that I've felt in many, many, many months. Many months.
Mama self-care. We cannot underestimate the value of it.
No. And the crazy thing is I have preached this shit for like years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has been my bag, but this period of time really challenged me. Right. And I realized, like, just because I make time to work out or I try to eat well, like, it's not the same as like driving in a car to a hike and climbing up a mountain as myself.
Yeah.
And so I just really encourage everyone at this time, as much emotion and responsibility as we're holding for our family, to please invest in yourself, even if it's just a couple of hours once a week. It really, really does magic.
It does. And I think with anything, putting it in your calendar is what makes it a reality. So, that's back to the communication with your partner and as a mom, and just being like, I need these 2 hours for myself. without a partner, without kids, and just, if a girlfriend is available, great. If not, maybe it's just time alone, right?
Yeah.
To go for a hike or meditate, whatever you need to do. Even like you said, some people just driving is very meditative.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great.
Yeah. And I'm petrified of the fall. I am scared to death of like what school is going to look like and how I'm going to manage it and who's going to help me do it all. But I'm part of a mastermind, and we actually just had a morning 2-hour powwow just earlier today of recording this. And one of the messages that came through in this conversation was that there has to be a new model that we're thinking through. It's not about always trying to conform ourselves to something that existed before. Right. And so it's rethinking how we're getting things done. It's making your kids more part of your work, as counterintuitive as that can sound. And it's leaning into our strength, because I can feel sometimes like I'm just going to fall apart, but I'm strong and I have to lean in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, the fears are real and, they're natural and normal, but when they do come up, it's an opportunity to really sit and reflect and then make a decision that's not fear-based, but that's really coming from this honest, it triggers.
Yes, 100%.
Wow.
How has it been for you, Laura?
Well, I have a preschooler, he'll be 3 in September. So I feel like in some ways, when his preschool closed in March, they had their morning Zoom calls for 30 minutes, which is kind of silly for 2-year-olds. But some days he was into it, and I still had my nanny. So honestly, having childcare support past few months was like essential. It was so huge. I was able to continue practicing as a chiropractor and serving the population in my community that really needed this work. And so some ways my life didn't change so drastically, but obviously there was still so much else. Like, for me, going to a store and having to put a mask on is creates stress, because I don't like wearing masks. I know that it's unhealthy for me to breathe my own CO2. And it definitely, I like to connect with people, and people don't even want to make eye contact.
I know. It's so crazy.
There's a whole subconscious thing going on where there's the avoidance, and there's that social distance is not just physical, right? There's the emotional, energetic social distancing that's been occurring, and I crave connection. So that's been really hard. My friendships have shifted because of the pandemic. We have different perspectives on how the immune system functions and works. And so it's just fascinating to me, all the stuff that's come up. But I think at the end of the day, what's been coming up the most is I'm just getting more clear on my boundaries and what I want. And because my schedule got wiped clean, in March and April, and even into May and June, there was such an opportunity that when I start to put things back on my calendar, it's only things that I see are relevant and worthy of my time. So when I was overscheduled previously, I think I was just kind of going along with the motion of like, well, this is what I've been doing, so I'm just going to keep doing it. And now it's like I'm more deliberate of questioning, well, now that I can do this, do I want to?
Yeah, exactly. I think we've all had that chance to pause and reflect on what matters and what's worth our time and what actually works in our business models and what actually doesn't. And yeah, the power of that pause is real.
Yeah. And it's been very powerful. And it's almost the first time in my life that I've really had such an opportunity. And even, speaking to other women and moms in my practice who, let's say, have been laid off or furloughed, it's like, well, I don't have to go back to this is the laying off is a blessing, because I really don't want to work for this company anymore anyways. And now I can reinvent myself and do something that I actually feel passionate about, And so there's all these really blessings in disguise that have been presenting themselves for a lot of women I've been speaking to.
Definitely.
So I wanted to also spend a little time speaking about your experience as a mom of mixed race kids, in 2020 and what that's been like for you.
Well, it's definitely been intertwined with what feels like the purpose of this period.
Yeah.
There's just so much to say. So forgive me if I kind of dance around a lot of things, but I'll just say whatever comes up. I've been really, really open and vulnerable on my platform about what I've been learning during this time. And it's received a whole lot of positive reinforcement. And I think that's not because I have it all figured out, because I don't. I think what I'm seeing is that people need vulnerability and authenticity as a model. They need to know that there's someone else and other people who are willing to kind of step into these spaces of unknown. And it gives permission for other people to do that. So I'll first start by talking about what I think, is happening for a lot of white people right now. Mm-hmm. And then I'll bring that back to what that means to be the mom of mixed kids right now. I think that a lot of white people, myself included, are seeing realities for the first time. Yes. And I think that the reason for that is, again, this perfect storm of this period of time. So my Black husband, he kind of jokes like, you all are, freaking out over here, but like all this has been going on for, forever. Right. To us, we're all kind of like, whoa. Yeah. But the reason is that, one, we were all at kind of a standstill, right? We're all sort of like told to be at home, told not to go out too much. Our schedules are slower. Even if we're doing a massive parenting juggle, our rhythm is different. It opens us up to paying more attention to reality and to what's going on. We witnessed the murder of someone in clear view. And it's not that we hadn't seen it before in bits. Like, we have. These things have happened. But I think the timing didn't line up in the same way for us to get it. And so we witnessed the murder of George Floyd. And then all of a sudden, it's like a veil is just lifted. And people are just wild with anger and grief and all the emotions that have been up and present. And, I think for me, so I've been with my husband for 10 years again, we've had our son for 8 and my daughter for 4. So you would say to me, well, how the heck did you not know? How the heck did you not see what it's really like? And all I can say is that I think as white America, we have been numb. We've been numb because it's more comfortable there. Yeah. And it's so hard to soften up and feel and connect in these places that are based on abuse and violence and dehumanization. It's very, very difficult to do that, especially when you're pretty convinced you're going to be called out for whatever you might say, because it might be wrong or it might not be said properly, or it's just such uncharted territory. Yeah. And I think that I existed in a similar way where I had the components that I needed to be a loving partner, to be a loving mother, to have Black family, and to feel totally at one with all of that. But to understand the real experience and to understand not only how I play a part in it, but the life that my children are entering and the life that my husband lives every day, that was something that just hadn't totally clicked yet. And so now I'm seeing it. The emotions are so much higher. I've had to deal with moments of my son, jumping off a class Zoom call because they were talking about activism and protesting, and him all of a sudden getting overwhelmed by anxiety because he said the police could kill him. Oh. And I've had to deal with those moments as a white mother. I took him to our first collective protest together, me and him. Mm-hmm. And he's a tough kid. He's an athlete. He's, tough in personality, but he literally plastered himself to the side of the car for a few minutes because he saw police there. Oh, wow. Yeah. So these experiences, like, nobody could really prepare me for them, except that I'm finally leaning into what it is. And I'm reading a lot and I'm watching films. And I'm talking with a lot more vulnerability with my partner, where I'm like, talk to me, tell me what this is like. And I'm not getting defensive, because often I would get defensive because I felt powerless. But it's okay. It's okay to be powerless and listen and at least recognize someone's experience. So I think I'm just I'm more in truth right now than I am in denial. I'm not as numb anymore. I'm definitely in defrost mode. And I'm a highly compassionate person, and I live with Black people. So I take my position really seriously as one to communicate this process, because most white people don't have a lot of Black people in their life.
Right.
So what's their connection point? What's their way of finding why this is personal? And in fact, this is highly personal because, something that's also come up really recently in very, very strong voice is that white people have believed that Black racism is something that they're immune to, but actually we are all negatively affected. It is a human impact, a human experience. So this is really deep work, and I'm leaning into this in my world because it's so personal, and because I think the world needs this level of conversation to continue to wake up and continue to make positive change. I'm having lots of really awesome conversations on my podcast about these topics, and I'm actually hosting a virtual event on July 26th. I don't know when this episode is airing, but it's all about the power of cross-racial friendships. Because again, I think their power in personal relationships is real. It's not foreign anymore. It's in your face. So yeah, I'm having a virtual podcast recording an event to dive into that with some really amazing women. So everything is really up right now, but I am so happy to be able to open up about it.
I mean, the first step is to really just start speaking it, right? And then it starts flowing. And, I think it's interesting because I've certainly had felt, more emotional about what's going on because of George Floyd. And I think a lot of other white women can relate to that. It triggered something deep in us as mothers, especially, that we were like, when he was crying out for his mother, it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And this is not okay. I don't care what color you are. This is not how we treat our fellow humans. And this is not the example we show our children of how we treat each other. It's the grief, the sadness, the anger. It's like, these are real emotions that we're experiencing. And I certainly have never felt them to the level I have until this summer. So I can really relate to what you're saying. And I think it's really important that we keep talking about it. We keep feeling it. We keep processing it. And we keep modeling it for our children about how it's so important that we really practice, loving kindness with others, everyone around us. And, this is really creating the next generation, right, of peace and social justice.
Yeah. And look, it may take, if you think about how many generations this has been going on, it may take a few generations to undo, if let's assume we're in a path of undoing,
Right.
But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we continue to do the work, and we continue to realize that I hate when this topic becomes politicized also, because it's not political. It's human.
No.
It's human. And I think that even the more liberally minded individuals can fumble just as badly, and can sort of think that because they're liberally minded and check certain boxes socially, that they are not unconsciously racist or practicing microaggressions left and right. So everybody needs to be really doing a nice audit on their lives and ask themselves, like, what are you reading? What are you listening to? Who are you hanging out with? Like, what events, I know events are limited right now, but like, what events are you going to? Are your kids in, spaces where they see kids that are not the same color as them? Like, what about the characters in their books? Like, do a good, hard look. Because if you think about it, your kids are learning everything you put in front of them. And you are, as you said, modeling for them. So who are you hanging out with? What are you doing with them? What are they looking at? What are they listening to? Start there.
That's really amazing. And it's also, I just want to share too that, it was interesting when there was the Black Lives Matter, has been reignited essentially with everything going on. And, my first reaction in all honesty was like, well, all lives matter, right? And there's been a lot of controversy about people hashtagging that. And then now just reading enough posts on social media, realizing why that is so disrespectful to the truth is, of course, all lives matter, but that's not relevant to what's going on. It's really about recognizing the specific, like you said, dehumanization and racism that has not been a part of our lives as white people living in the US.
Yeah. And another point, just to piggyback off of that, I, like so many of us, myself and a lot of other women in our, let's call it community of communicators, suddenly there's all of these Instagram lives and podcast guests who are women of color or people of color. And you're like, is everyone just trying to like play some kind of game here? And I actually slowed myself down and I was like, no, this is about amplifying voices that need to be heard.
Yes.
And if you have a platform, open it up, share it, like bring women on who have so much to share. Like I've discovered so many incredible Black women who are in empowerment and wellness and positivity and, supporting women of color in the workplace and all kinds of topics. And their voice, it has a different flavor in ways that are so important right now.
Yeah.
And we need to like slide over a little bit and give some stage room. So that's the other thing, like make room, amplify,
Yeah, I agree. I saw that, with a podcast collective I'm with, they were mentioning, women of color, they need and deserve that amplification. And they have a message that I can't communicate, right, as a white woman. So I thought that was super relevant to what's going on right now.
Definitely.
Awesome. Randi, do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I just encourage everybody to, even if this time feels incredibly complicated and very, very unknown, know that you are not alone in that feeling. We're all experiencing some version of that exact sentiment. But I challenge everybody to realize that sometimes that in these moments of unknown and in these moments of discomfort, it's like the greatest alchemy of all time. It's like so many amazing ingredients of growth and strength and power and understanding are bubbling up underneath the surface. And so when I'm feeling really overwhelmed and really unclear, one, of course, I give gratitude for what I do have, which is so much. And then I allow myself and encourage myself to realize that there's so much brewing under the surface. And that's for each of us as individuals. And it's as a collective humanity right now. And in change is discomfort. So you're going to feel it all. So I just want to empower everyone to know that that's what's happening and to just hold each other's hands through it. We will get through it, but we just have to understand what it is and stay the course. So yeah, that would be my message of empowerment. And I would also encourage everybody to come and hang out with me also on my podcast, the Going Beyond podcast. I'm everywhere on social, but probably the best place to find me is my Instagram, which is at Randi Zinn. And my new website, the goingbeyondmovement.com website, will be launching later on in the summer. But you can head over to my current one, which is beyondmom.com, and leave your email. And then you'll kind of like go on the ride with me of all of this new release to the world of everything I've been working on.
It's beautiful. Well, I am just so grateful and appreciative of you taking time out to join me and to share your wisdom, your inspiration, your empowerment, your perspective. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Oh, Laura, thank you so much. And thank you for the beautiful work that you do to empower the health and well-being of women and mothers.
Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode with the amazing Randi Zinn. And I want to remind you to check out her virtual event coming up this Sunday, July 26th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on cross-racial friendships as a path for lasting change. And you can get tickets on Crowdcast. And it's going to be an amazing event with so many really amazing women speaking on the importance of cross-racial friendships. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Brayton Birth Method. As a podcast dedicated to empowering families on making the best decision for them, I know how important it is to have choices. The Homeschool Buyers Co-op is the world's largest buyers club for homeschooling families. Founded in 2005, they are a family-owned and operated business dedicated to providing top-quality curriculum at the lowest price possible. Similar to how school districts get educational discounts by buying in bulk, the Homeschool Buyers Co-op is able to acquire homeschooling curriculum and supplies at a discounted rate for the thousands of homeschooling families who join the free membership. Even better, the Homeschool Buyers Co-op hand selects every curricula sold on their site. That means very curated quality products without the overwhelm of thousands of options. Go check out their website at homeschoolbuyerscoop.org and register for a free account with the code ADJUSTED to receive 5,000 smart points, which is equal to $5 towards anything available at the co-op.